Hello, Gemini, Cancer, Moon sign people. Welcome to your Taurus, Gemini new moon reading. This is 12th house energy for you. You are in download mode. Wow. This is a super new moon in your 12th house. And so that means you are really, hey, if I were you, before I went to sleep at night, I would definitely be asking whatever angels, guides, and ancestors are on duty with you to come through with some answers to some specific prayers, to some specific questions, and wake up with the intention of having a clear answer. Now, you don't need to be desperate. You are in. You're in the center. You're in the galactic center at this time. I want you to know that this is particularly emphasized due to the fact that your sidereal soul astrology in Gemini, most of you will have Gemini in your Vedic astrology as well as your moon sign. There's a 24-degree difference. So, most of you are going to have that. But some of you are going to be Gemini in the sidereal as well. Sidereal is important. It tells us our intuitive mind. It tells us that soul astrology. And not all of us can use that astrology on the daily. We do have to complete our dark night of the soul in order for it to really be useful if we come from the Western world. Western astrology is egocentric, earth-centric astrology, and so it's really based on emotion. So, just how we feel, and that's very useful. It's the GPS that the soul uses to kind of locate where the body mind is. And it uploads information about how we feel. And we download from the soul plane. So the downloads from the Gemini for you on the soul are in the nakshatra of Rohini at this time in the moon, and Mixithra in the sun. So very deeply compelling touring energies. Of course, Rohini is ruled by the moon. Both of them are Taurus nakshatras. Mixira is ruled by Mars. So you have this very powerful yin-yang, love-making, new moon energy that is very open to helping you integrate the lessons of your emotional rebirth at this time. In the recent past, this rebirth has brought up for you issues related to fantasy. And you now have the clear sight of reality. You have had to sacrifice something of great value because these videos are specifically for people going through the dark night of the soul and designed for people experiencing mama drama trauma, the people who love us and want to understand us better. You may have had to let your mother go on some very deep emotional or physical level. Just had to vamp. This is the Osiris Horus card. It is a waxing gibbous moon phase card. For those of you who have not done that, you may still be justifying your abandonment or abuse. You may still be thinking that the MDT is all your fault, that it's all about you. It's all about something that you've done. You haven't measured up. You're still judging yourself by that yardstick of mama drama trauma, which of course didn't start with your mother or her mother. It is a vicious cycle of an emotional disorder in the family line. But you've put a stop to it on some level. And even if you are still embracing responsibility for it, what you have put a stop to has been an unconscious denial of MDT. At least now you're conscious that you are in denial and you're justifying it. So either you have actually taken steps to live in loving detachment, as we call it here, or to kind of refortify the MDT in your life by justifying it. This is the recent past. The present is that there is an inner wisdom. You do know what you know. You do know the truth about this situation. And it's very painful for you if you are justifying the abandonment and abuse that you truly feel about your mother. If you've made a choice to live in loving detachment by establishing healthy boundaries to help you heal the triggers of the emotional disorder of MDT, you are definitely needing to hear from Great Mother that you are operating on a true sense of inner wisdom. Some of you just need the confirmation of this. You do know this. You do know this without a doubt. It's in your heart because it's a new moon heart chakra card. What you don't know in the shadow position is that you are open to this new life. You are about this life. You are about moving forward in healing yourself from this. You are about doing what it is that you need to do. You may be taking baby steps. You may be scared as hell. Okay? This is a waning gibbous moon card. This is all about, really being able to release, and to course correct what needs to be course corrected. It's all about, really being grateful about your intentions coming into fruition. And so you may not be consciously aware, since this is in the shadow position, that you are open to shifting. So if you are justifying MDT, you may not be aware that even still, even though you have, circled the wagons again and you've gone back into that abandoned and abusive situation because there was some fantasy that it'll get better, you don't know on an unconscious level your soul is ready to heal. Okay, there is an openness still to accepting the MDT. If you already have, what you don't see is that by embracing loving detachment, you have in fact opened yourself up to live even that much more courageously as you move forward toward your new intentions. Now, of course, new moon is all about setting intentions. It's an emotional cycle. And so with Gemini energy, we're talking about setting conscious intentions, again, that emotional moon sign, that conscious emotional state that have to do with motion, your activity. Maybe if you're too sedentary, maybe wanting to be a little bit more active. If you are too active and you feel that you need a rest, setting intentions around that. Setting intentions around learning new things, around being more logical or clever about your situation. Are some good new moon wishes. Presently, you feel that all is well. You feel that you're fine, or you feel that in order for you to be fine, there's something that you need from someone. So if you have been justifying your MDT and you're consciously doing so, hoping for there to be a change, what Great Mother's saying is that that change is within you. And you have become aware of that as recently as the Sagittarius full moon, May 29th. That full moon was in Scorpio Sagittarius. You, I think that was your sixth house. Yeah, that was your sixth house. And so sixth house is about wellness. Sixth house is about your everyday life. And so that came up for you, that you are the one. You are the one. You are the answer to your prayers. You have to decide how you're going forward. And you have, which is why we opened up here with this new moon with rebirth. And so she wants you to know, that is actually what is occurring. There is a wellness as a result of this. Again, if you have not made a decision to confront your MDT, there is a wellness as it relates to acknowledging the shadow that your soul is ready to heal, and that whatever it is that you're hoping will be fulfilled through a fantasy of some change in someone else's behavior is going to be answered by and through you. You're expecting that the boundaries that are needed in your life right now to do this, to go forward with this new life of acceptance or of taking baby steps towards it, are going to appear for you. That you are going to get an understanding of what's okay and what's not okay in your sphere of reality. You're going to, because you are like a new babe, a newborn babe in this emotional realm, you fully do expect that there are going to be new things in your life that are not okay anymore. You know, if you've, decided to start living in loving detachment and establish boundaries about how you're going to be spoken to and when you're going to engage with someone and how you're going to engage, and you've gone through that process, or you've begun to define those boundaries, and you're establishing boundaries, or if you're in the phase of having to constantly maintain the boundaries, you fully expect that there's a need to do so in order for you to maintain a sense of wellness that you do presently have. You want to protect it. So there's this dance going on of, actually surrendering yourself to this new birth. It's very nascent. It is that new moon of new moons. It's super moon. It's a super new moon, Of course, it's a new moon, so we won't see it like a super full moon, but it's still very close to the Earth on the ecliptic, as close as it can be, about 90% as close as it can possibly be. It's huge void energy, huge galactic center energy in your 12th house. So you're going to be really reflecting. You might even feel a little isolated. You might even feel a little alienated from others, but it's a very regrounding energy for you. It's going to reground your understanding of the world. And so surrender to the dance between the clarity that you need to establish the boundaries to protect your wellness and experiencing your wellness, the newness of it, and doing so in a way that allows you to reflect on what those new boundaries are. So it's a dance between downloading from Great Mother, that intuitive Gemini space, that Rohini Nakshatra is very passionate, it's very beautiful. And with the new moon, Great Mother pulls, or she's very receptive to Great Father energy of that sun. Okay, the sun is in Taurus in the sidereal. Okay, new moon is when the sun and the moon are in the same sign. And so in the sidereal, it's Taurus. It's in Mikshitra, which is also about beauty, softness, gentleness. But the sun here is ruled by Mars, which is very courageous. It's very skilled and spontaneous. But it's not an aggressive Mars energy. It's very gentle, So Great Mother's receiving that in this dark void in your 12th house. You're receiving that as well. This tendency toward courage, toward special skills, and, in a way that's passionate and beautiful and fertile and abundant. So this dance of just kind of surrendering to what comes up and what comes forward for you in this process. Because it's coming through to reground your understanding of the world. So other Gemini new moon wishes may have to do with, social ease, wishes around being more at ease in your social environment, which typically is not a challenge for Gemini Cancer moon people as it relates to kind of the perfunctory kind of home situation. But it can be awkward for you. You can be awkward when things don't go the way you want them to go in your outside world. People can have a hard time kind of reading you. And so these wishes with this 12th house powerful download. You can ask for guidance and direction about how to have more social ease, more positive daily interactions with people, that kind of thing. Gemini energy is all about calming mental anxieties. And so just surrendering that is what Great Mother is saying. You're kind of dancing with that right now as you establish these new boundaries. Some of you, again, may be in different stages of boundary work. You may be establishing them or in the process of maintaining them. And maintenance of boundaries is just repetitiveness, I need you to really understand that when I say blank, I really do need X, and you've probably said it a dozen times before, but, when things change, things change. And it takes a while for us to adjust. Now, the hidden influences have to do with realizing that at this particular point, just at this particular point of this new moon for you, Gemini, Cancer moon people, you've done all that you can do. There's nothing more that you can really do at this particular point. You've done a lot. This is 12th house. You've gone the whole astrological wheel. You've done your part. You've been doing a lot of work. And so although there may be a great angst about really beginning this process of understanding this new world that you're in as this new babe, living in loving detachment, or deciding to try it one more time with the acidic, toxic environment. Just, realize that what's important now is to surrender to the process and acknowledge that going back to old ways isn't going to serve you, but the guidance that is available through your angels, guides, and ancestors is. This is a first quarter moon, so this tells me that it'll probably take you another good week into the new moon before you can actually face this challenge, if you so decide to do so. Because this is all about receiving from what you have, giving from what you have received. I'm sorry, that's third quarter. First quarter moon is all about making that decision to face a challenge. So you might not be ready for another, like I said, week or so to do that. It's about, taking that discerning action to support your intention. So are you clear about what your intention is now coming into this newness of your life? Probably not completely. And so that is what the angst may kind of be about, and what Great Mother through Adi Shakti is coming through, which is the Hindu goddess here, the primordial mother energy. She's coming through and she's saying that you're, as Dorothy is here in the deep sleep, in the twister dream, you're in download mode. You've tried everything. And a twister has been kicked up through the Great Mother energy of Gaia to kind of stop you in your tracks so that you can receive from this great, beautiful new moon, Taurus, Gemini, void, the communication that you need to ground yourself. In the center of your spread is the doctor. Speaking of third quarter energy, that's what kind of had me pulling over here, is that release energy. It is that energy that has to do with giving from what you've received from a place of gratitude. And it may not seem like you've received a lot, but you have. You've received a great deal of insight through your integrity. You're beginning to tell yourself the truth. You're beginning to tell your truth. You're beginning to say, okay, well, I know that this is unhealthy, but I'm going to try it again. You're telling yourself the truth. You're not denying it. You're not pretending like things are okay. You're hoping against hope, but at least you are recognizing that you have a birthright. And so the law of Divine Mother is all about that double yin energy. It's all about that galactic center energy. It's all about, again, giving from what you have received. And what have you received? You've received a lot of insight about, if you haven't already, with this 12th house energy, with this new moon, you will, over this new moon phase, a lot of insight about your birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole. You will definitely get a greater understanding about that. So don't let that frustrate you. There's information coming through to you to really emphasize that you are a dearly loved child of the great Mother, Father, God. I just posted a video about MDT and our divinity, which explains that. What Great Mother says needs to be let go of is a tendency not to embrace your beauty. The Nefertiti card is all about speaking your truth. It's about owning your power and showing your power first to yourself and then to the world. It's bringing back the goods from your journey. So you are a new babe on this path, but you're a new babe who has gone the astrological wheel. It's 12th house energy. You've learned a lot. You have a lot of great insights. You're starting to tell yourself the truth. You're starting to embrace your birthright as a divine child of great Mother, Father, God. And as new as it is, as a new babe, it is power. It is the real power. This is the real stuff that power is made of. This fundamental understanding in your bones to your soul space of who you truly are on the planet. This is owning your beauty. Let go of any and everything that is preventing you from doing that. This is an unction that you have within yourself to do, and Great Mother is confirming that. The advice that she gives on how to do that is to release the illusion. So those of you who are still defending MDT, she's saying, let go of the illusion. This is a new moon third eye card. It's time for you to stop. Now, we have MDT acceptance that is yang energy. It's very masculine, very active, it's very conscious, and it accepts MDT, the reality of it, and it's the kind of acceptance that allows us to live in loving detachment from it. It is what it is. I take no responsibility for it. It is a family cycle, and I am doing my part to stop it. And then we have the yin version of MDT acceptance, which is the unconscious parlance, allowance of it in our lives. Okay, so here we have the sixth chakra, which is a yin chakra ruled by the moon. And so it's saying that it may be on a soul level that you do see the illusion, but she's encouraging you to kind of let that percolate through and to your emotional space, so that in your immediate future, as you acknowledge the truth of your dark night, your MDT, you can actually see and appreciate more clearly the journey that you've just come through. We can't appreciate the journeys that we've been through until we can truly appreciate the journey that we've been through. This is the scene when Dorothy returns home, and Aunt Em informs her that she is home. One God, One Law says that the perspective that Aunt Em has, that she is home and has been home and hasn't gone anywhere, is no less valid than Dorothy waking up shocked that she's not seeing someone who's just come off of this fantastic journey. She was asking, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. And when she finally does, this is the expression that she has. But it's one God, one law. And what does that mean? That means that even when we are doing our emotional deep work, there is always a veil, as the curtain total pulled to reveal that Oz was just a man. There's always a veil as long as we are in the physical world. But we can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the inner intuitive part of ourselves, that deeper soma, rohini energy, that magnetic fecundity of spiritual power, beauty, and love is the ultimate acknowledgement of who we are, whoever we are. So this balsamic moon energy is really akin to the 12th house energy of this new moon for you. And it's really asking you to pay attention to the downloads that you're receiving. Interact with them by asserting your new moon wishes within the first 48 hours of the new moon. I like to do mine, 24 to 48 hours into it, to really fully sit into that lunar energy. It's about 2.5 days. And, it's just like a season. We are ending the spring season with this Gemini new moon reading. The next reading will be summer. And every season has beginning, middle, and end. Gemini is the middle energy, that mutable energy. And that's a very powerful energy to do your new moon wish ritual. It really helps things come together for you, and you really want to embody that coming together as you're doing it, because this is telling me that if you do, by the full moon, things are going to begin to synthesize for you in ways and on levels that you cannot imagine at this time. Move ahead with your intentions for greater learning, for more social ease, for you to be able to balance your movement and your activities, your communication, your logic, your cleverness. Establish those new moon wishes so that by the full moon there will be a synthesis of your intentions with an ability to consciously accept them as they come to fruition, and to accept those that are not, because they were not for your best at this particular time. Those oftentimes are, although they're rare, most new moon wishes are fulfilled if you do it with the energy. These are Gemini-oriented new moon wish suggestions that I'm giving. They're based on the energy of Gemini, so it's a Gemini new moon. When you do that, you are actively, you want to write them down, okay? The universe speaks ritual. It doesn't speak, and what is ritual? It's simplest, the simplest is the establishment of an intention through some action. Okay, we can establish intentions internally all the time, but because we are not very astute with our internal language and even how we communicate with our angels, guides, and ancestors, it's useful for them to know how serious we are about something by indicating, I'm going to pay attention to what my intention is by writing it down, because I'm going to make a ritualistic note that I am breaking from something. I'm entering into something new so that I can integrate that newness into my life through your guidance and through your aspiration and inspiration that I receive from you. This is what is communicated. This is how the universe, this is how the energies communicate with us, okay? And since we're in physical form, ritual is how we use our physical form to communicate in signs and symbols. This symbol of the third eye with the full moon, for you Gemini Cancer moon people, is definitely indicating that there will be new moon wishes that come to fruition for you by the full moon, related to your understanding, your insights about how you are communicating these boundaries and how you are downloading intuitive communication in clear ways. That double yin energy, this twister dream energy, all of this very ethereal, subtle energy, 12th house energy, all about you being able to recognize and acknowledge that you are regrounding yourself in new, incredible ways. The possible outcome of this is that by the full moon, you'll actually be acting on those downloads. How exciting is that? So some of those wishes that come to fruition are going to give you some really clear guidance about how to move forward into your new phase of life and of wellness, of understanding beyond the curtain. And you're definitely ready. You're definitely here for it. You're definitely receiving from a place of gratitude, and you're giving from that place too, because you've received the synthesis, and so you're going to be giving that clarity to others. You're going to be able to feel more clearly what's going on in your life. I feel like there are a lot of emotions now, but you know that you're in a better place than you were. You know that some things are coming to an end. And so it's not a worry that you have at all. It's just that you're just going through this purification, and you just get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And that's exactly what's happening. You're going to continue to purify. You're going to continue this purification process. You're going to continue unfolding the onion of MDT and the fantasy of your mother, the fantasy of the dark night of the soul not needing to take place. For example, if you don't have MDT and you're watching and you're going through some other type of dark night, which is more than likely closely related to MDT, you're realizing that little by little, as all of this begins to unravel and things become clearer and clearer, that you're refining yourself and you're liking it. You're liking it. You're enjoying the journey. The outcome card of fear tells us that in this process of unraveling, there are some decisions and some challenges that are being faced that you, at this time of this reading, do not feel equipped for. But if you do activate your internal energies, these 12th house energies, in the ways that Great Mother has suggested, you will be well on your way to moving beyond the denial of your power. There's a real resistance to owning your unique beauty. And that's because you're really seeking some external validation that is not forthcoming. And this type of fear is a recurring fear. It's a fear that you're going to be alone, you're going to be misunderstood. But really what it is, it's an invitation to do your trigger work. That's what it is. By the full moon, as all these things are coming together for you and this purification is coming together, the acknowledgement of how you're feeling is unraveling a whole nother set of issues that need to be addressed. And you may feel overwhelmed, but the invitation here is to ground yourself in the truth of your divinity. You don't have to be codependent on the validation and the affirmation of others. Of course, it's nice to have. And, this is difficult for Gemini, Cancer, Moon people. But it's not necessary in order for you to live the law of Divine Mother. The law of Divine Mother, your center card of the spread, requires that you trust your intuitive voice. And not everybody's ready. And not everybody's here for it. Look at our little channel, people aren't here for that, and so that's just the way it is. But you don't know, sweetheart, how divine you are, how powerful and resplendent you are. You don't need that. Your decision is enough. And to stand in the beauty of it is all that is required in order for you to sustain your wellness, which is the most important, the most valuable, and the most coveted thing of all of your angels, guides, and ancestors. So they're going to help you. They're going to help you. Just ask. Just set those intentions with belief and knowing that you're good enough. You're good enough right now. You're just going through this purification process. And you know that you're good enough. I don't see a lot of insecurity here, but because fear is the outcome card, I want to emphasize that for you. Thank you so much for watching, sharing, and liking. If you're new, please subscribe. I have a little bonus at the end talking about the nodes. That's another aspect of our internal space. If you want to stick around and check that out, please do. Otherwise, above all and most of all, remember, Great Mother loves you. And I do too. Okay, a word on the nodes is that they are typically viewed as too ethereal to be grounded in the world, too much of a conceptual aspect of the astrological chart to be really practical and practically interpreted as meaningful in your life now, which is why they are associated with the soul and kind of, okay, we can't really understand that. It's bigger than we are. We're not going to go there. And although that is true, the part that we can go to when we're looking at lunar aspects is that in the North Node or Rahu, we know that that is the evolutionary direction the soul is headed. We know that it is in large part the soul intention for its incarnation this particular lifetime. And knowing that, the sign it's in, the house it's in, and what aspects that house and those planets tell us the nature of the incarnation, what's important to it. Now, bringing that from the ethereal and the conceptual into a grounded interpretation requires us to understand the sentient nature of our physical senses: hearing, seeing, smelling, touching, waking, sleeping state, the state of health, the state of unhealth, etc. Those subtleties of life is what brings the nodal into the practical sphere. For example, all aspects of our nodes always oppose one another. And we know that if your Rahu is in your 4th house, your North Node, then the 10th house is where Ketu or your South Node is. Conceptually, we know that that soul is here to ground itself in the physical realm, specifically domestically, in its home, through property that it owns, to ground itself physically in the world. Now, regardless of the other aspects in the chart, because we're talking about the nodal axes, it's going to have a holographic effect on the entire chart as it relates to its incarnational purpose. Everything is ultimately pointing towards that in their own way based on other aspects of the chart. But if you could just imagine the yang symbol, the circle with that arrow to the right, finding its ultimate purpose in this earth realm, steering towards it, pointed towards it, and finally incarnating as the physical form of the cosmic calculus that makes up our entire chart, which is our internal wiring kind of laid out, splashed upon the stars and constellations that we can read and interpret, we will see that the North Node and the nodal axes in general give us a look into how to ease the internal stresses of that life
incarnated purpose. So regardless of what it is, there will always be stresses associated with it, issues of insecurity, self-esteem, and how we are experiencing that incarnational purpose on an individual basis. So with our example with the North Node in the fourth house dealing with domesticity and the mother, there will be challenges associated with the home and the mother. There will be stresses associated with that because that is the stuff that evolution is made of, that conflict, that yin and that yang purification process that occurs. So just looking at that, we can see that there will be opportunities throughout life to grow and evolve, which can be seen in the chart. To further ground that, we want to look at what your chart is telling you about your health, what your chart is telling you about your career, about your relationships, how you see the world, finances, and spirituality, because it's going to inform the strengths and the challenges associated with that. As we do that, returning back to the subtleties of our waking dreaming state, our clairs, clairvoyance, our clear seeing, our clear feeling and touching, clairsentience, clear audience, those extra sensory abilities. What happens is our unique strengths in those areas are constantly offering us information, tools, and guidance about how to confront, remedy, and transform those challenges and those stresses. So let's say, for example, with the North Node in the fourth house, one of the aspects is to have a sixth house everyday life situation where the sun is there. Or I'm not going to get too deeply into the example because there's so many variations, but let's just say that in your everyday life, you're very focused toward what you want to do. You're very clear about what you want to do, but maybe in your career there's some conflict for one reason or another. That's going to create a challenge, perhaps, in creating the necessary revenue to get the home that you want to feel grounded. That is going to work for you to feel that domestic grounding. And so with the South Node, or Leo and K2, there's going to be a tremendous tendency to want to fall back on that default, which is what the South Node is, the soul default, the many lifetimes that the soul has had in that particular energy, which is all about accomplishment, success, in career, and that sort of thing. Wanting to fall back into that, even in light of this lifetime, that being a challenge, there being some corners cut, perhaps, or some illegalities, perhaps, as it relates to acquiring the home that you want, or dealing with maternal issues and that sort of thing. So that's how we can ground it a little bit further and look for opportunities with our dreams, with how we are managing our sleeping life, our circadian rhythms. Are they really supporting us in a way that we feel energized enough to fulfill what we need to fulfill, to acquire what we need to acquire, to feel grounded? If we need to be a bit more creative than what the present lifestyle is in acquiring a home, do we need to perhaps be a little bit more intuitive with regard to what may be other opportunities to acquire those things? Maybe there are people that are wanting people to do some house sitting around your area, but you really haven't tuned into that. But there may be some intuitive guidance in that area where you could easily do that. The soul is always downloading intuitive information to us, and it is through our sentient voices, feelings and unctions that we can connect to exactly what it is that we need to fulfill those things. And so that is what we look at in a moon reading as it relates to the nodes. We look at where those strengths could possibly be for you. Some people have more of an ability to hear. They may have clairaudience based on the fifth chakra prevalence of Mercury energy throughout their chart. That kind of thing is what we're looking at in a moon sign reading. That's the perspective that we are able to gain a clearer view into how to use your sensitivities, how to identify them and work with them to fulfill your practical needs that the soul has in this lifetime for you to feel the balance and the equilibrium that you need within yourself as you deal with this very challenging issue of mama drama trauma.
For more information about Mama Drama Trauma, visit mamadramatrauma.info.